everybody! Today is a pretty quick video. I am going to be showing how to use a long slotted tool to make a paper tube. You could also think of it like a paper cone. It's going to start off small, get longer and larger on the end, and it's something that is just a little bit different. You don't see it too often, but they're sort of addictive once you get started using them. They're pretty fun. So let's get started with some quilling paper cones. The tools I'm going to be using to demonstrate these cones are a simple piece of 1/8 inch quilling paper, my white glue in a needle nose container, a small paintbrush, and a long slotted quilling tool. So you can see this has a much longer working end and then the slot on the other side. It looks quite different than a regular slotted tool. So the first thing you do, just like with any quilling with a slotted tool, you're going to slide the end of your paper in, and then you're going to start turning. The big difference is, instead of just keeping the whole tool level, you're going to start working at a slant. And as you're turning your tool, your paper will be going, again, sort of slanted. You can see how it's overlapping just slightly, and as I turn, it gets a little bit wider and a little bit longer, and it's going down the length of the tool. You could go faster. I wouldn't recommend it, especially when you're first starting this out. It can be a little tricky. It's very easy to lose your roll if you go too fast. So I'm just demonstrating here how to end the cone. I like to leave my finger on the length of it after I tear off my excess, and that way I don't lose my shape. And then I put a little bit of glue on the tail that I just tore off and attach that to dry. I try to keep it level as I can on the bottom. If you have to, you could always snip off that extra if it's not level, if you need it to stand up straight or something like that. Normally it wouldn't really matter. And then the last important part you want to do is, while it's still on the tool, you're going to dab some glue all the way around the cone and brush that till everything is smooth. And what this is going to do is it's really going to keep the shape once it's dry. That glue that I'm brushing on there is really going to make it stay in that cone or the tube shape. So you really don't want to skip this step. Set that aside to dry. Sometimes I just sit my cup up, or my tool in a coffee cup or something, and just let it stand there and dry for a few minutes. The next version of a paper tube I'm going to show is one that's less tapered at the beginning. So for this one, I'm letting the paper build up in the regular way I would use a slotted tool. And then after I have a little bit of a width at the top, I start going at an angle. And you can see I can move it up and down a little bit if I start to lose my shape. You do have a little bit of wiggle room once you get comfortable. But you can see this one is different than the first. Again, it's not as pointy at the top because I didn't start at an angle right away. I let it build up first, and then after a little bit came down the side. So this one looks a little bit more like a bell or something along that line. And then once you get really comfortable, you can kind of wiggle your tool, and that can make it so you can stretch out your cone a little bit. That's a good tip. If it's not exactly even, you can sort of twist it as you hold the top, and that'll allow you to space out your overlapping a little bit more if it's uneven. After the glue on the outside of your cone is dried, you can remove it from your long slotted tool just by wiggling the tool slightly back and forth and pulling it from the bottom. The last variation I'm going to show for these cones is how to make a quilling cone that is sort of off-center, a little bit more curved. To do that, you start off the same way as the others. This one is going to start off tapered, so I'm not going to let it build up very much at the top at all. It's going to be a little bit more pointy on the top. And I'm going to keep the paper going to the side on an angle as I turn. The big difference here is that I'm going to, after I get it the size that I want, I'm going to push the entire cone against the inside edge of the tool. It's kind of hard to see from that angle, but there you can see a little bit better. After I get the end glued down, and you can see now it's sort of off center, I've pushed it with my hand against the tool itself, and that's going to make it sort of have a little bit of a curve or a bend to it. After it dries, you're going to want to make sure that you're still putting some glue on the outside. Keep your finger on the side pushing against the tool. If you have to let it go for a second, that's fine, but you want to keep it on there as you're brushing the glue so it really keeps that shape. You shouldn't have to keep your hand there the entire time as it dries, but I would definitely leave it there for a few minutes just so the glue starts to set just a little bit. And there you have it. You can see that it has a little bit of a curve to the end there, and that is just from me pushing the cone against the side of the tool as I was gluing it. You do want to be a little careful taking that one off of your slotted tool though. Just be real careful you don't mess up the shape while you're pulling your tool out. So there's 3 different types of quilling paper cones. This one has a little bit more of a point to it. You can see it's really pretty sturdy from all that glue. And the one in the middle is a little bit flatter on the top, and then the other side is the curved cone. So I have a couple posts of different ways that I've used these cones or the tubes in the past. I've used them for mushroom stems, and I've used them to make icicles. There might be more. Those are the 2 that I can think of off the top of my head, but any that I find, I will leave in the description box below. If you have any other ideas about how to use these cones, let me know in the comments down below too. I might, you never know, turn it into a video someday. As always, don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you do, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.